Hello and welcome to From the Be All End. This is the debrief for Burnley 1, Newcastle United 4. Not the result, not the performance we were after at Turf Moor on Saturday. The trapdoor to the Sky Bet Championship now looms wider than perhaps the chink of light that we thought may have existed in terms of survival. I'm sure we're going to try over the next half an hour or so to convince ourselves, as well as you, that a win at Spurs puts everything else back into play. But a dismal afternoon, it has to be said, at the Turf on Saturday. I'm Andrew Greaves, with me Simon Evans, Paul Woodhouse and Justin Conley to try and pick the bones out of that performance. Simon, let's start with you. Said there in the intro, not the result we were after, not the performance we were after, but it could have been so different, couldn't it? That first 10, 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, we start with some real positivity.
Yeah, absolutely, it did. Yeah, it looked promising. It was what you expected from that opening to the game. The team to be sort of fired up and going out and trying to sort of impose themselves on the game. And then as soon as Newcastle broke through us, that was it, really, wasn't it? I mean, you know, they made their adjustments. I think playing two strikers up front caused some problems, didn't it? Because it just didn't leave a free man from the central defenders very often. Not many teams play that way. I don't know why. You know, that's a topic for another day. I don't know why it's out of fashion playing with two strikers, but it is. Newcastle played it very well. But, you know, just if you're not going to pick up runners and going to get sucked into the box, I mean, there was at least two of those goals came from situations where there's 4 or 5 players stood around Muric while no one's picked up the guy around the penalty area who's going to put it in the net. I don't know. That's not tactics. That's not individual discrepancies. That's just like poor defending. So very disappointing, really. And as you say, you know, the trapdoor is widening. It's tricky again, isn't it?
Yeah, Justin, tricky again. Simon picked up on you know, again, the issue. It's difficult to pinpoint individual errors, but collectively, we just switched off at several moments. And Newcastle, with the talent they've got, Wilson and Isak up front, midfield that runs and runs, you cannot afford to switch off at any point. We knew that before this game, but we got punished, didn't we, on Saturday by that in that kind of 20-minute spell in the first half.
Yeah, we did. I mean, it was deeply disappointing because it wasn't the Burnley that we've seen over the last couple of months didn't turn up, did it? It was the Burnley that's got us into this mess in the first place that showed up for the first time in quite a while. It was very reminiscent of some of the early season performances where we, you know, play quite well, create some decent opportunities, get shafted by VAR as well, I might add. That was a stonewall penalty, if you ask me. And in fact, you know, if we get a goal in that first 15, it's a different game, isn't it? But you're right. They just break on us down that right-hand side. Nobody picks anybody up. It's just so easy. And then, again, like we were doing earlier on in the season, we just fell apart. We just didn't do anything. You know, there was no sort of focus. There was no, I don't know where that came from, because I definitely couldn't see that coming. I was, you know, I was all up for us, you know, wiping the floor with them. And like you said, it looked pretty likely in those first 8. I mean, if you told me after 15 minutes that it would be 3-0 down by half time, I wouldn't have believed you. Do you know what I mean? It was just incredible the way they just fell apart. I haven't seen them do that for a while. So yeah, I mean, nothing's mathematically decided yet, is it? But you know, things had to go our way that on Saturday if we were going to get out of this mess, I think.
Yeah, and Woody, at one point, I think Sheffield United had taken the lead against Forest, and you kind of thought to yourself, well, actually, this could be on. I mean, we'd been in the pub earlier watching the kind of championship unfold, and at one point it looked like Blackburn Rovers might be hovering close to the championship trapdoor until they got themselves a shock win at Leicester. But it was one of the things where everything looked to be going our way, and then all of a sudden the house of cards collapsed and everything went to shit in a handcart, didn't it, really?
Football, it's such a bitch, isn't it? But
yeah,
we're a bit like a Ricky Hatton fight. You know, we've been playing either substandard or opposition that hasn't been firing properly, and we've kind of bigged ourselves up to think we have a chance against one of the big boys, and we go into it and we go in like a fresh puppy, full of this like naive optimism, etc. And we go at them extremely well. You know, Assignon, I've just watched that first half again, and even after the first goal, you know, we were still marauding down the route wherever we wanted to go.
You're a massive Assignon fan, aren't you? You're going to be
Huge.
gutted.
He's going to go, and I am going to be gutted, and he's going to go to a top 6 side, and he's going to show exactly, you know, just how good he is. He's shit at the back, don't get me wrong, but we punched ourselves out. That's what I'm trying to get to, you know, and that was the issue. Assignon had spent so much time bombing down the right. He was knackered. You know, Brownhill was knackered. And so the ability to track runners, it's not that necessarily heads went down or whatever. We spent all that, you know, 15, 20 minutes, whatever, at such a high, intense rate that as soon as they start coming back into the game again, it's like, you know, we just weren't able to, you know, match that level of intensity that they could bring to the table. And then they just picked us off. Like Simon said, the inability to pick up runners, you know, the fact that we defended seriously, like not necessarily school kids, even preschool kids, where everybody was running towards the ball, you know, and then it was like, oh shit, we've left all that space over there for some unbeknown reason. And
I mean, that is inexplicable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter how much work you do on the training ground. If when it comes to crunch, you don't have that awareness of space around you, because we didn't look in any trouble until we started leaving huge gaps, like you say, down on Vitinho's side. And again, we can come on to the decision to play somebody out of position when we've got a left back on the field, on the bench, etc., etc. But it did just feel, didn't it, Simon? Like, you know, the errors that we thought we'd got rid of. Suddenly, Newcastle come here. We've not a great away record. I think they've lost 10 on the road this season. You know, only won 5 away from home. But it's that old adage of, you know, teams haven't won or have very poor records. Welcome to Turf Moor. Help yourself to 3 points. Grab a pie on the way out, and you're kind of away, aren't you? And it's just what is the kind of this is the $1 million question, I guess, or the $100 million question. What is the answer? How do you get better at that? Is it just inexperience at Premier League level? Is it that decision making? Is it fitness? Woody touched on there. I agree. I think, you know, a few of them players after 20 minutes looked like they were blowing out their arse because of that intensity. What is the kind of magic bullet, if you will? Or isn't there a magic bullet? Is it a collection of, you know, the tactics perhaps not being right, the performance levels not being right, the fitness not being right? A few people have mentioned fitness quite a bit. I think we put the mistake from Berger at Old Trafford down to mental fitness, in terms of at that point in the game, you're tired, you're making not the best decisions because you have to be intense. What is the magic bullet, or is there a magic bullet?
There is no magic bullet. I mean, the question is, like, if this was almost any other manager who hadn't been a fantastic defender himself, there'd be questions being asked about the manager with a team defending like that. There would. I mean, he signed those defenders, right? And he's lining up that team, and he's giving them instructions. And that defending was just ridiculously naive, you know. And that's at the end of a season. Now, we haven't seen that in recent weeks, and that is the mystery element to it, isn't it? Like Justin said, it's like the team from September turned up again, you know. But that's worrying, isn't it? That is really worrying, because what is going on? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think Kompany's reputation as a player will remain untouched, but it was as a very good, well organising central defender. It wasn't just his individual skills. He was good at organising a back line. That's why he was so valuable to Manchester City. And it's not happening there, is it? I mean, that's you know, that stuff Woody's talking about, the school kid stuff, getting sucked in like that. That really is schoolboy stuff, isn't it? Where's the person who's saying it? You know, that didn't used to happen with Tarkowski and me, because one of them would have a grip on the situation. Actually, both of them pretty much always did. It's not happening. It's not happening. You know, and we've seen improvements. We've hailed Esteve as having been a great signing. I think he has been a good signing. We've said Dara O'Shea has massively improved week in, week out throughout the campaign. I think all those things still stand. And yet, as a collective, Vitinho at left back, I don't agree with. I think Charlie Taylor should be playing at left back with the options that he's got, because yes, Vitinho brings us energy. Yes, Vitinho is a likable player because of his work rate and his effort. He's just not disciplined enough as a left back and good enough as a left back. He's certainly not in the category of Charlie Taylor, who should be played. And, dare I question defensively? I mean, we've got a little French fan club here, but he's great going forward. But he's sort of, like United fans get frustrated with Wan-Bissaka because like he goes charging forward and then there's never any end product at the end of it. But the thing you could always say about Wan-Bissaka was he's fairly solid defensively. Yeah. Assignon puts a load of effort and gets forward and stuff, but he's part of that collective, isn't he? I'm not criticising him for any individual errors or whatever. That just wasn't good enough, and so you have to question the manager about it. You really do. I'm not saying company out or anything like that. I'm just saying if you're asking what's gone wrong there, you can't ignore that he's put that defence together. He's given them the instructions. Or if all four of them aren't carrying out the instructions, then there's also another problem there. But it's a mystery, really. It is a mystery how a team can improve week in, week out and be as disciplined as they were at United and at Chelsea away, and then be so ill-disciplined at home to Newcastle. It's just a head-scratcher. Yeah.
There has been some questions just over the manager. I mean, there's a clip being shared on social media of Neil Lennon, of course, former Celtic manager, on Irish TV, Premier Sports in Ireland, saying, look, we could talk about him as a player, but as a manager, it's not been an impressive season. He talked about the same game management, and it is a game management issue, the same mistakes. It is like we'd almost been lulled into a false sense of security is probably the wrong word, but a false sense of kind of optimism, haven't we, by the last 8 games? And I think you touched upon the past. Maybe we've come up against teams who were misfiring and we've perhaps got a bit lucky. I mean, we've not won many of those 8 games, have we? That we talk about kind of mini run, but it is now questions are being asked of companies' credentials.
Well, it's obvious, isn't it, that when a team is second from bottom and looking like they're going to get relegated, that you have to question the manager, don't you? You have to question all aspects of every decision that they all make. Some of the substitutions during games have been strange. Some of the team selections have been strange. But I think what was really exposed yesterday on Saturday against Newcastle was the poor recruitment in the summer. That game was crying out for a solid ball-winning midfielder who can dominate the centre of the pitch, and it was crying out for a competent defensive left back. A player who can take. They've got pace down the flanks, haven't they, which they exploited. And we had nothing to counter that on that left-hand side. Charlie Taylor would probably have done a better job defensively than Vitinho did. I thought Vitinho was didn't have his best game. But those positions that we were all crying out for them to strengthen, and then they didn't do it in January either, did they? And to a certain extent up front as well. We misfire, don't we? We get into good positions, good situations. And then we can't produce. So that I think the bottom line is the players we've got just aren't good enough to do the job that is required of them. Company said after the game, we just came up against a better team. I don't really like that as an excuse from a manager because 90% of the time we're playing against teams that are better than us. But you can win against teams that are better than you if you get properly organised and you have the right approach.
This is where we need Chris Gordon to jump in now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we spent 5-6 years beating teams who were better than us, didn't we? Often enough, at least.
Exactly.
And it is possible to do it, but you've got to have the right players. I mean, questioning company, I think, is right. I would definitely not be in favour of getting rid of him. not least because, you know, if you said, who would you be looking to replace him with if we went down, and who would come given the current circumstances? You'd be looking for a manager with a proven track record of doing well in the Championship, wouldn't you? Well, we've got one who's actually won it, so you know, I think it's reasonable to give him an opportunity to put things right, and you do hope that he's a smart guy. Hopefully he will have learned from this season. Hopefully. He will have learned from all the mistakes, the many, many mistakes that they've made this season. So, questioning him, yes. Is it time to say goodbye? I don't think so just yet.
He might think it's time to say goodbye, though.
He may, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is the other thing, isn't it? It's kind of, you know, he's always been very, you know, committed to the project. But would he? I mean, you know, after a season that he's had as a manager, I mean, I imagine it's emotionally draining for us lot sat in the stands and on the sidelines and watching on his TVs. You can imagine for the manager, it's quite emotionally draining. What's your gut feeling? You know, let's kind of fast forward to the summer. Let's say we do get relegated and, you know, the stay in the Premier League comes to an end after just one season. What's your gut feeling about where we start next season from a club structure point of view? Is Kompany still the man in charge? Is he you know, would you back him to build a squad to kind of get out the Championship? I do think that the Championship, with, you know, if the three promoter teams go down, we've got a great chance in that Championship. I don't think it's been vintage this year after the first 4 or 5 months. But what do you see the state of the club looking like in the summer? And I realise that's a huge question.
Yes, thank you for that. At 10 a.m. over here. I think can we keep? Do the players still buy into the project? You know, who wants to go and who's going to leave? I think that's going to be huge. You can piss that Championship with a core of those players, but if that core goes, then it's another rebuild, etc. And then I wouldn't necessarily be too sure again. If you can keep the majority and we can almost build on the good parts of this season, because I do believe, obviously, players have gotten better, you know, and I think it will be another good learning curve in the Championship. Then I think it should be fine. But I wouldn't be nearly as confident if it was suddenly another fire sale for some unknown reason, or various people want to go. That could get quite messy, I think.
It's going to be messy. It's going to be absolute anarchy. That's what it's going to be. It's going to feel like it anyway. You know, even if the club strategy is like, let's try and keep this squad together, they're probably not going to be able to anyway. And even if they do keep, like, let's say the starting 11 yesterday together, there's going to be about 30 other players they're going to have to deal with. I mean, the squad is absolutely huge. There's players we've completely forgotten were Burnley players. Yeah. Like, anyone remember Nathan Redmond? Like, he's a Burnley player.
Redmond and Ramsey were two that we were mentioning walking off the turf yesterday. I'd forgot about Aaron Ramsey. I'd forgot about Nathan Redmond. Genuinely.
Masengo, Delcroix. You know, Michael Oppenheimer is a Burnley player who apparently Millwall aren't interested in keeping. You know? Yeah,
some disciplinary issues, apparently, according to Neil Harris, the Millwall boss, on Michael Obafemi. Scott Twine, of course, still out on loan. Rory out on loan. CJ Egan Riley, anyone? Still out on loan.
Wout Weghorst. It's ridiculous. We've never been in.
I forgot about Weghorst until midweek as well.
Bastian.
You've got to be fine.
Clarets, Bastian. I mean, we've never been in this position. We used to laugh at other clubs that were in this position. We've got players dotted all over the place who are Burnley players who we don't want anything to do with, really. You know, and we've also got a manager who probably wants to sign another 8 players this summer. I mean, it's going to be anarchy. It's certainly going to feel. I mean, it might be organised chaos. They might have a plan. They might have a strategy for bringing in revenue on players that they think they can get money for and getting rid of what they consider dead wood and so. They might have a plan, but for us, it's going to feel like anarchy because every week there's going to be. I mean, how much speculation is there going to be when you're dealing with 40-odd players, plus the incomings?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to keep our job quite interesting over the summer, isn't it? It's going to give us something.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I can't wait. What fun it's going to be. Every player we've got is going to be linked with every other club that exists in Europe. And every player on the market is going to be linked with coming to us. We're not going to, and then we're going to sign somebody that we've never heard of.
Oh, yeah. Would he be brilliant?
Yeah.
Would he be brilliant?
Yeah, definitely. One player who, of course, will be no doubt the kind of subject to speculation, of course, is somebody who, and I don't know if anyone listening actually knew this was going to happen or this was happening, but Sander Berge apparently has won both the BFC Player of the Year and the Players Player of the Year. Awarded at a swanky do on Saturday night in Manchester, BFC in the community charity dinner. Kirsty Lavelle, the women's goalkeeper, won both awards for the women's team. But would it, I mean, we've talked a lot about disconnects and things like that between the club and the fans. I think there was quite a lot of surprise when it was announced that Sander Berge had been presented with this Player of the Year award at some dinner in Manchester, because I don't think anyone really knew it was going on. Now, you know, I get the fact that this is a charity dinner for BFC in the community. They held it in Manchester last year, no problem with that. But it just, again, feels like, you know, the supporters club over here used to have a really good dinner, which all the players and the management staff would turn up to, and that connection, which we've talked about, would be maintained. It'd be, you know, whatever it was, 15, 20 quid a ticket as opposed to £2,000 a table. It just, again, feels a little bit like we'd be quite happy if, you know, we could run this football club without fans actually being involved and being that nuisance who want to know stuff and kind of feel like they've got a say, isn't it?
It does feel a little bit like that. I saw maybe one poll. There didn't seem to be too much fanfare around it. And like you say, the next thing you know, it's been given. I don't even think I saw it online anywhere. It was just kind of shared. And yeah, and I get them saying, yes, we make more money for charity this way, etc. But I can also see that you don't have to deal with the sweaty oiks who are slightly drunk, wanting, you know, photographs or, you know, telling you how shit you've been over a season. It turned into a bit of a farce, and I kind of get that. But yeah, there isn't that connection, like you say. And even if you are doing the Manchester thing and you are having fans at the dinner per se, at least try and communicate that and make a bigger deal of it prior to or whatever. It just felt, you know, well, we've given a, you know, a players award. And then granted, in a season where you're probably guaranteed to go down, it's probably not quite as important as it would be in certain other seasons. But it's still, like you say, there feels to be a disconnect there.
Yeah, Justin, you'll have seen this yesterday, but I just wanted to pick up on a couple of bits at the turf yesterday, at least. I don't know if I'm sure you saw the misspelling of Forest on the big screen. People are on Forest before the game at half time and again at full time, slightly amateur hour. And a big shout out to the young lad who'd won himself a free boiler service in the half-time entertainment, which consisted of having to score a penalty or kick a ball into it without it touching the grass from different distances. So that particular lucky winner won himself a branded hoodie, a scarf, and a free boiler service.
Don't forget the heatable branded beanie. Be wearing that proudly around Burnley, won't it?
The heatable branded beanie. Yeah, they all got to that. They didn't get to the last ball, which was 500 quid off a boiler.
They all kept falling over as well because it was pissing down and it was so slippy, and they just had the trainers on. So every time someone kicked a ball, they went down. In fact, one of the penalties was disallowed because the guy fell over. Did you see that? He said, "You're gonna have to take that one again." Oh, that was a bit harsh.
Yeah, we went to VAR, which I guess proves it was switched on despite not awarding us a penalty in that first half. But yeah, I thought we'd got over the shit half-time entertainment, but to give a young lad 250 quid off a boiler and a free boiler service just felt a little bit a little bit rum. Simon?
No, just going back to that thing about the football in Burnley in the community dinner and stuff. It's quite sad they have to have it in Manchester, isn't it? I mean, I've heard the rationale for it being that they can get, you know, higher paying guests and people are more comfortable having a night out in Manchester, these sort of big spending people. I think it's 200 quid a seat if you went individually, and then obviously there were table deals and stuff. But I mean, even if I'm not saying that they've made the wrong decision, but it's quite sad, isn't it? That the whole concept is the community of Burnley, like doing things for the community of Burnley, and you have to go to another city to have a fundraiser. I mean, it just seems a bit sad to me, really. And to be honest, they could have had it in Burnley, couldn't they? I mean, like, it's not. I mean, I saw some online chat and people saying, "Well, what are you supposed to do? Have it at the Kirby?" Right? Okay, the Kirby's not a factor anymore. You could have had it at Crawwood, couldn't you?
I think there's a function suite there.
People spend plenty of money at Crawwood on events and stuff. You could have done that. It kind of. I don't think it sends a great message.
Why don't you have it at Turf Moor? There's plenty of hospitality capacity at Turf Moor. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I mean, they could turn the fans on at Christmas. They do turn the fans on into they put a marquee inside the fan zone, which turns it into a very posh-looking venue for kind of bigger dinners. I mean,
seriously, if we were given the job of organising Barnsley in the community, we went to Barnsley and said we're going to have a dinner in Leeds. I mean, come on, it's just mad real, isn't it? It's an insult.
You'd think there'd be a backlash, wouldn't you, on that? You think there would be a backlash on that?
It's sad that there isn't really. I mean, I don't want to go, too far down that path, but
there's no backlash because nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
But everything is marketed that way, isn't it? I mean, and again, we've talked, until the cows come home about how we feel like if they could just have it as a private country club and not bother with any fans, that'd be the kind of ideal for them because they wouldn't have to meet anyone. But interesting, isn't it? That kind of, the first we hear about is Alistair Campbell basically tweets that Sander Berger has won Players Player of the Year in a picture because he's at the dinner. I have to say I did see it advertised, but actually I think Dion Dublin was hosting like he did last year. Obviously well-known Burnley legend Dion Dublin was hosting that particular dinner. And listen, I'm guessing it's a great event. I think last year they raised £50,000, whatever it was, for Burnley FC, and the community does brilliant work. We've had some people from the community on here talking about the food.
50 grand is not. 50 grand is nothing. It's nothing. I mean, well done, great stuff. But the football club with 140 million pounds in revenue from broadcasting, and they can't hold a community event in Burnley. I mean, am I being out of order? But it quite annoys me, does that?
No. I think that's again add it to the list of questions that need to be asked in terms of the the decisions made by the club. I mean, one thing I will just touch on, just to move us on, to try and shuffle us on. Sorry, it raised over 60 grand. I was just checking. Record-breaking charity dinner event raises over 60 grand last year at the Hilton Deansgate in Manchester. We did see the introduction of Safe Standing. Well, yeah, quite in the Premier League. Safe Standing. Let's move on to Safe Standing before we kind of start to wrap things up. Justin, what did you make of Safe Standing? I mean, the atmosphere, I don't think really changed because most people in the cricket field stand anyway. But it looked it did look, as the ground was kind of filling up, it looked different, didn't it? Because you've got those kind of railway kind of chairs and things.
I was quite surprised how it looks all right. I'm quite surprised how it's all the way across, even in the away fan bit. It's just like is the top half of the cricket field stand. They've put these railings in. I don't think I thought the atmosphere was absolutely fantastic for the first 50 until they scored. The atmosphere was brilliant. Don't think it was down to the safe stand. It was obviously down to my deeply misguided rallying call on our podcast on Saturday morning.
We fight in the stands.
That made all the difference. But
Churchillian, not misguided. It was Churchillian, Justin.
Yeah, all right then. Unfortunately, it didn't provoke that kind of response on the pitch, did it? But the crowd, I thought, were really up for it. It was really noisy, quite an intense atmosphere. I thought it was really good. Maybe the safe standing. I mean, it's such a small part of the ground, isn't it, that they've turned it over to, particularly with it just being that sort of half of the Burnley fans. And I think, like we said last week, it's a step in the right direction now, and it's going to take time for it to bed in as season tickets get turned over. I'd be interested to know what sort of plans they've got on that front with how are they going to get people in there, because I would imagine that there'll be quite a few people who've got season tickets in there, probably already renewed for next season, and maybe it's not an appropriate spot for them if they've got kids and stuff like that, which is not great if you're standing up, is it? Or if you're particularly small, it's not a great place to. It's not a great place to be. So there'll be a bit of shuffling around, a bit of moving, and it'll take some time for that sort of area to be the focus of what the people making all the noise. But I think it's great. I think it's a really good idea. I think, like we said, it'd be great if we could get all that stand full of Burnley fans and get the away fans somewhere else. I think that'd go a long way to changing the atmosphere. But I don't think there was anything wrong with it, and I don't think there's been anything wrong with it all season. The idea that it's a lack of atmosphere that is causing the issues on the pitch rather than the issues on the pitch causing the lack of atmosphere, I think is ludicrous. If we start winning some games, that atmosphere will come back. I've got every confidence.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's fair that we point that out because we are often very critical of certain aspects of the club. But I think actually the safe standing, I know we were kind of a bit like it was promised, where's it coming? And then all of a sudden it arrived like most things do at the Turf. But yeah, and I have to say as well, I got quite a nice, well cooked but not burnt meat and tater pie in the James Hargreaves upper yesterday with very little stress. So again, credit where it's due.
Progress about the season.
Yeah.
Gradual progress.
We now no longer burning pies.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I bet you could have done with a padded seat though on Saturday, couldn't you?
You know what? I genuinely could. I mean, I was walking like John Wayne. I was very,
Come on.
very.
Tell us about the Tour de Vinny. Come on. So that's pretty impressive achievement.
Cheer us up.
We'll try and cheer you. Yeah, so we completed the Tour de Vinny, which was 526 kilometre bike ride from Anderlecht to Turf Moor via various stops and things like that. So the saddle sores kicked in for me after day one. I rode for 3 other days in agony and then sat in the van for the majority, shall we say, of Friday's final stage before climbing on the bike and claiming glory on Harry Potter's way as we rolled to the turf.
Wincing down Harry Potter's way.
Literally, I kind of jumped the traffic lights just to end it early. I was away quite quickly. A bit of a Mark Cavendish-esque sprint down Harry Potter's way to burn off the other riders who'd spent 116 kilometres in the saddle.
No cobbles on that route anymore.
The cobbles through Breda, I have to say, and a couple of the Dutch and Belgian towns we went through were pretty sore. But yeah, big shout out to Theodore Jackson III, I believe, at the club, who works in the supporter liaison team, who welcomed us at Turf Moor and allowed us onto the pitch side to have some pictures with family and friends. And then to Vincent Company, who invited us down to the training ground through his dad, Pierre, who'd met us in Anderlecht. Pierre Company, first black mayor in Belgium. We've talked about him in the past. Lovely guy, and he'd organised for Vincent to meet us, which we were really surprised. We just got a text on Friday saying Vincent's at the training centre, wants to meet you. He'll hang around for as long as you need, which was very nice. And he bobbed out at one meeting to chat to us for kind of 15, 20 minutes or so and meet all our families and sign jerseys and things like that. So yeah, it was made it all very much worthwhile meeting the big man. But I was saying on our group, obviously don't underestimate how hard he works, because he was going into a meeting when he left us at 10 to 7 on Friday night, and he'd been there since probably about 7 o'clock that morning. Not that it mattered, not that it worked too much on Saturday, but certainly if anyone doubts how hard the manager's working, don't doubt it, because he's in all hours.
He didn't turn around to you and say, "Hold on a minute, aren't you one of them old blokes who whinges on and criticises me every week on the internet?"
He didn't. But I did. I offered my services. We were kind of walking to get the picture outside his office with the kind of Burnley crest in the background where all the signings do their pictures. And he said to me, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Well, my arse is giving me a bit of grief, but I'm still around for selection tomorrow if needed." And he said, "Well, I might give you a rest tomorrow, but could call upon you later in the season. So I am ready as long as my arse recovers to get down to Spurs on Saturday." So yeah, all good.
We need that in that little list that used to come out in the papers where it have the sort of doubtfuls And then in brackets afterwards it says hamstring. Oh, right, we need Andrew Greaves' arse.
Excellent. All good though. But yeah, we've raised over nearly £3,500, so well over our initial fundraising target as well for Andy's Man Club, the Barry Kilby Prostate Cancer Appeal, and Vincent's charity, BX Brussels. And we got a chance to have a look around some of their facilities as well, which was very nice indeed.
Brilliant.
Any other business before we go?
Well done, Greavsey. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very many. Let's leave it there. We'll come back. We'll kind of regroup, find our energy, get back out on the training field, work through our mistakes and things like that, and then come back on Friday with another episode, previewing that trip to Spurs, that must-win trip to Spurs. Try and find some enthusiasm between now and then. It is Bank Holiday in the UK, so if you are listening to this on Bank Holiday Monday, I hope you enjoy your well-deserved break from work and enjoy the rest of the week. We'll see you later in this week. But until then, up the Clarets.